Good morning. I'm the Grumpy Baker. Today we're going to do show a few things, a few tips, so that people have asked me a lot of questions, and over the years, more and more questions. So I thought maybe today we could answer some that would help you to understand more of the baking measuring process. So I'm going to sit back, drink my coffee, and choke a little. And let's see if we can show you a few things. So, number one, the most important thing is one of the most important things. Make sure you read the recipe through for the whole recipe before you do anything. Just don't start following it because sometimes recipes have hidden little hints and secrets that for in case like flour or something else. It always has little tips in there, and most people don't read them. I put in my recipes different in case you're using this flour or you're using baking soda instead of baking powder or you don't want sugar or and what can you substitute with. So read the recipe through first. That's very important. Now, for room temperature ingredients, that is very important also. When you do any baking and you are using, it says in the recipe, eggs, milk, or cream, butter, any of those, shortening, if it says room temperature, it means room temperature. Okay? Because what happens is, if it's not in room temperature, at room temperature, it doesn't give a consistency. It will make the dough or whatever you're making cold. Some dough should be made cold and some dough shouldn't. And that is why when they say, or I say, room temperature, keep it at room temperature. We'll get more into that later. I'm just trying to get into things, okay? The next one is when you cream butter and sugar together, don't just put them together, give it a little whip, and then, oh, there we go. That's it, okay? That doesn't work. When I say to cream them together, cream them. Whip them or beat it or mix it or whatever, whichever way you're doing it until it is a white cream or a brown if you're using brown sugar, whatever. But make sure it's very creamy before you do anything else. And when you're mixing it, make sure you scrape the bowl, okay? And all of the bowl, not just around the edges, underneath, everywhere. That's also very important because what will happen is once you mix it all and you don't scrape it, you'll pour it into the cake pan or whatever you're making, and then you'll see this little thick on the bottom of the bowl, a thickness of stuff that was not mixed. Then you'll scrape that and put it in. Well, those are the ingredients that should have been mixed in with the rest of it. So please scrape the bowl. That's also important. Now, about ovens. When I say to you, preheat your oven to 350 and make sure your rack is in the middle, make sure that's what you're doing. Now, what you can do is what I do is if I'm baking at 350, I will put the oven at about 400, excuse me, until I start. So when I open the door and put my baking goods in on the middle shelf, unless I tell you different, okay, always the middle of the oven. Unless I tell you or the recipe, whoever recipe you're reading, they tell you, that's very important also. Okay? So once you put it in, you're going to lose a bit of temperature. So if it's a little higher, it won't take as long to come back to that temperature. If you preheat your oven to 350, open the door once the buzzer goes off that it's preheated. You open the door, you put in your cookies or cakes. By the time you've walked a little bit, come back because you leave the door open because you can't open it if it's a big tray. You're going to lose a lot of heat. So that 8 minutes to 10 minutes that the cookies should have been baking, it's still preheating back to that temperature. So if it's a 350, 375 temperature, put it up another 50, 75 degrees. It doesn't matter. But put it up higher. But don't forget to turn it down back to 350 after you put the cookies in. Or, well, in 8 to 12 minutes or 14 minutes, the cookies will burn if you don't. So please, put it up a little, put it in, turn it back down, set the timer or whichever. Timers are also important. It takes all the guesswork out. Okay? Once that buzzer goes, once that buzzer goes off, check them. If they are a little moist on top, not raw, a little moist, that's okay. Because anything you bake, when you take it out of the oven and sit it down, what happens is it will bake for about another 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what you sit it on. Okay, so it will bake a little more, and then you'll notice that it will draw together and it creates the perfect cookie. If you bake them until they're hard on, not hard, but cooked all on top, really thick, then by the time they finish cooking outside of the oven, they're overcooked. So it's okay to take them out a little undercooked. And I mean undercooked, not raw. Okay? If the middle and around if the middle is a little soft, that's okay. That's when I would take them out. And by the time they finish cooking on the counter or wherever you put them, then they will be a perfect cookie. Or now, there are some to the rule. When you make breads, okay, you bake that until it's totally baked. Okay, that's a different story. Okay, so there is things, excuse me, that you should do, but I always tell you when I am instructing you to do that. Make sure bread is baked until it's done. Make sure cookies are baked until they're a little soft in the middle. Leave them. But anything you pull out of the oven has to rest. Give it 5 minutes to rest in the pans. You will see that in case, like if bread is sticking to your pan or cookies are stuck because you didn't put a parchment paper or oil or grease the pan. Okay, just let them, or muffin tins. When your muffins, they're all stuck, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. Just let them rest. For muffins, a good 5 to 7 minutes. And what they will do is sweat in the pan. then you'll be able to pull them right out. Just don't start yanking them out as soon as they come out of the oven. Okay, let them cook, finish cooking and resting, and I guarantee they will just come out. Sometimes you might need to take a knife around the edge, but they will come out because they sweat when they're sitting in the pan. Anyways, let me have a sip of my coffee. Good coffee. Good coffee. When you use vanilla, excuse me, once you have creamed the butters, sugars, and all together, that's when you should put in the vanilla. Because then it will mix in with the, don't mix it, excuse me, don't put it in with the sugar and cream when you're beating, but after that's done, put the vanilla in and whip it a bit with it also. You don't have to go crazy with it, just a bit. That will help disperse it evenly throughout the recipe. Don't put it in after the flour and sugar, the flour and baking powder and everything is in. Don't do that. Put it in with the cream when you cream the sugar and the butter. You will find that your cookies or whatever you're baking will have the same taste. Instead, how come this one doesn't taste like that one? Well, I put it in the flour and it got stuck in a big clump and didn't notice. Okay? So, the next thing is salt. Okay? Salt isn't optional. Okay? Salt is used as a leveler, and it also activates, it wakes everything up. Without salt, it will lay flat. Not flat, but it doesn't wake it up where it comes up and your cookies, everything, they rise. It needs more than just baking powder or baking soda. Okay, the salt actually wakes up everything, all the ingredients. Almost like those energy drinks you young people drink. Okay, oh, I'm sluggish. Oh, I'll have one. That's just because you drank 200 cups of goddamn coffee. You shouldn't be drinking that shit anyway. It's not good for you. But anyways, back to salt. When they say there's no salt in a product that they're selling in the stores, that's because they use a chemical that reacts the same as salt does. So you take the salt out, now you got a chemical that's telling you that is just as bad as salt, but people don't know that. Okay, yes, there is no salt in it, but they have a chemical that reacts, preservatives that react to the product, which is just as bad as salt. So, but salt is very important. Do not substitute it. Unless you're doing no salt, well, then you'll have a loaf of bread that comes up like this. And then you're wondering, how come my bread doesn't look like this? It looks like this. Try it without salt one day. See what happens. Okay? But anyways, salt is very, very important. Excuse me while I flip my paper. I had so many people ask things that flour, measuring. Okay? When you are measuring the ingredients, I'm going to show you something. First, use these. Okay? These and your kitchen utensils are two different things. You think a teaspoon is a teaspoon out of your kitchen drawer. It's not. Okay, it's more than a teaspoon. So if it calls for 4 teaspoons of baking powder, you probably just put 5.5. And then you wonder, or almost 6. Then you wonder, oh, how come it has that chemical taste? Well, that's why it has that chemical taste. Okay? Now, the other thing, flour. So when you scoop like this and press it to get a cup of flour and put it in, okay. So you've scooped it, says cup of flour. Now I want to show you something. And I forgot my spoon. Well, that really sucks. Hold on, I'm sorry. One moment. I forgot my scoop. I'm back. Okay. So I scooped that cup of flour from there to here, from scooping it and pressing it to make it level. Okay? I want to show you something. This is how you should fill a cup of flour. Till it's full. Oops. There. Now, that's a cup of flour. Look how much more flour is left. Okay, that's a true cup of flour. Not going like this and scooping, because it compacts it. You don't want it compacted. When you get it compacted in the cup, that's what's left. Okay, so please, do not scoop your flour. If it says 5 cups of flour and you do that, now you have about 8 by the time you scoop it all in, as you saw. Okay? So that's very important also. And that's just another lesson. I have lots of lessons, lots of tips. Now, I've had a few people ask me, oh, when my cake comes out of the oven and cools down, it's dry. Well, what you do is make simple syrup. Okay, that's sugar and water or cornstarch and water, warm water, and brush it on the cake. And I guarantee you it'll make it as soft as a baby's bottom. Well, they say it's soft. But anyway, another good tip is if your breads or what you're baking get too dark on top, build a tent out of tin foil and just put it over top so it's not touching the product. And that's after it's come up and started baking. If you do it in the beginning, you're not sure how high to put it, then your product will bake into the tin foil. So once it's baked in the oven for about 10-15 minutes, tent it. That means just take a piece of tin foil, make a tent over it, sit it over it, and that will stop it from getting dark and really darker than the rest of the bread or whatever you're baking. It helps even out the temperature because sometimes not everybody's oven's the same. Okay? I already mentioned that. Okay, so also, now we're going to get into baking soda and baking powder. Don't switch them. If it says baking powder, use baking powder. If it says both, use both. But don't think baking powder and baking soda are the same. They are a raising agent. Yes, they are. But they react different in different recipes. Sorry. It's pretty early here and I'm half awake. Anyways. Well, that's just a few of my tips but if you have any questions, don't be afraid to send me a comment on anything you want to learn. I can show you all kinds of, I can answer all kinds of questions. So if you have any questions that has to do with baking or, anything that has to do with baking, if no matter what. Now I'm repeating myself. So whatever question you have, just give me a comment and I will answer it the best to my knowledge. And if I don't know, which is probably not, I know a lot. I've been baking for over 40 years. I've created recipes for bakeries. I've owned 2 bakeries. I have a lot of experience. Now, starting in January, sometime in January, if I get enough people, I would like to have a class, on Zoom or Boom or whatever. I'm not very techy, so my elf will set that up for me so that, but I would like to start a baking class. No more than, 10 people at the most. But each time it would be, every week would be on something different, on a different bake. Now, there is a thing, the last thing I want to talk about is everybody has asked this question or thought about this, doubling the recipe. Look, when you double the recipe, you can double the flour, you can double the sugar, you can double the butter, the milk, the oil. Yes. Okay. But also, you can double the eggs. Whatever the recipe is, if it's double, triple, quadruple. Now, once you get into more intense, more a lot different recipe, like the recipes I had where I used to make 300-400 loaves of bread, well, then everything changes. But for now, for home baking, so you can flour, sugar, milk, eggs, oil. You can, when you double it, you can double it. Okay. Now, for baking powder, baking soda, no. Okay? No. A big no. You must, if you go from 1 to 2 to 3 times, and say it says put in 3 teaspoons of baking powder, baking soda, and you triple that, you'll have 9 teaspoons of baking powder, baking soda. That will make your product taste so tinny and chemical. You don't want that. When you do baking powder, baking soda, and it's doubled, So say it says 2, don't put 4, put 3. And if you're tripling it, it's 4, not 6. Okay? Don't get into that where, it says 3 teaspoons of baking powder, baking soda, and you triple it. Now you put in 9 and 9. That's 18 teaspoons of chemical, baking powder, baking soda, that you're putting into that product. I know you're splitting it into 3 or 4 different things. It doesn't matter. You don't need to do that. Now for yeast, if it's the dry yeast and it says 2 of those little packages, which is supposed to be, I think, just less than a teaspoon, and it says double, so you're tripling, you want to make buns and bread, so you triple the recipe and it calls for 2 teaspoons and you put in 6. That's way too much yeast. One of those little packages will do 2 loaves of bread, between 4 to 7 cups of flour. So if your recipe says 5 cups of flour and you put 10, fine. Put in 2 of those little packages or 2 teaspoons of yeast. Don't put in 2 and 2, which is 4. And if you triple it, it's 6. That's way too much yeast. So yeast is a different animal. Just remember it this way. If the cups of flour are 4 to 7, one of those packages. If it's, 7 to 14, 2. Well, 14 cups of flour, I don't think most people do home baking with 14 cups of flour. But anyways, I think I made that clear. It sounds like I did. For spices like cocoa, chocolate, and all, well, sure, spices, no matter what, cinnamon, and okay, yes, those can all go as a double or triple to the recipe. It's because they are there for flavor more than there to enhance, to create the recipe and to raise it. Spices are just for that flavor, and chocolate. So like I said, powder and soda, baking powder and baking soda, you don't want that chemical taste. So I instructed on how to use it. I hope that this helps everybody a little bit. And as I like to say, sometimes, Merry Christmas, not Happy Holiday. It's not Happy Holiday. It's Merry Christmas. For 66 years, I've been saying Merry Christmas. And all of a sudden, we got to say Happy Holiday? What the hell's that? Anyway, stop loafing around. I hope this helped you. And I will see you later.